I don't know, I just found it quite disturbing. And the fact that we didn't, like, I had no idea going into that day that that's how the day was going to turn out. And it ended up being one of the worst days of my life. All right. My name is Eric Martin, and I am a chef. I previously worked at the Royal Ontario Museum Food Studio. We worked for the food service provider Compass Group Canada, and we recently lost the contract to another company in June, so we were forced out of the ROM.
You worked at?
So I worked for Compass for 6 years at the ROM, and I started at the fine dining restaurant, which is called Crystal 5, also known as C5. I also worked for the catering department, and for the last 2 years of my stint at the ROM, I worked in the food studio, which was sort of a gourmet eatery, glamorized cafeteria type of deal. Going into Christmas being like one of the busiest times at the ROM, a lot of stuff was ordered and whatnot, and they just weren't, I mean, I guess the staff was overwhelmed. They were short-staffed, they kept cutting people, and so they were over-ordering or they weren't taking care of their products, so there's a lot of waste going on. We would see cases of stuff being thrown out, you know, weeks later when it could have been transferred to us, like from C5 to the food studio. When we ended up closing down at the ROM, we were given basically 3 months initially that we knew Crystal 5 was going to close down and the catering company was going to close down. And as far as food studio was still kind of up in the air as to what the actual date was going to be. So when C5 closed at the end of April and catering dissolved, we ended up with a ton of stuff that came down from either their dry storage or their fridges or whatnot. So over the last week that we were in the ROM, knowing that we were shutting down, our general manager got other Compass Group chefs to come in from different units, and he allowed them to take product at a discounted price rather than just allowing them to take it for free. So when these chefs would go back to their own general managers for their particular units, they were only allowed to take maybe a certain amount of food based on their own food cost for that period. So in the end, on the last day, after service, basically we cleaned down everything. There was still a ton of food left. I would say, well, food and I guess products like paper goods or whatnot. There must have been at least, I don't know, I'd like to estimate about $40,000 worth of stuff. And it all went into the garbage, and we were basically told that we had to throw it all out from a security standpoint. And this was told to us by the Leisure and Entertainment Vice President, Jeff Bell. I mean, at first I asked whether we could take a couple things from dry storage. He said yes, and then 2 minutes later he turned and he said, no, sorry, from a security standpoint, we gotta throw everything in the garbage. And, you know, a lot of the stuff was canned products or sealed products, like cases and cases of pop and juice and whole fruits and like even frozen stuff, maybe like a case of bacon from the freezer, you know. Cartons upon cartons of milk, cases of eggs. Each case is like maybe 144 eggs. So I guess that was sort of an eye-opener. I'm sure it happens all the time now, especially with big corporations like this one. And I myself never want to be part of it again, like something like that. Definitely, had I known going into it, we could have had a discussion on what might have happened on that last day, especially because the former chef of the food studio, prior to me, he actually went on to work at the Daily Bread Food Bank and is still currently there. So the fact that we had all the opportunity to sort of put some sort of system into place and allow, the products not to get wasted in the end was just, I guess, absurd to me.